Have you ever stopped to think about how your car's engine just works? I mean, whether it's freezing cold or boiling hot outside, it just keeps running perfectly. Well, the secret to that is a tiny, super important part we almost never talk about, the thermostat. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on this unsung hero and find out why it's so vital for your engine's health.
So why is temperature such a big deal anyway? Well, an engine has what you could call a Goldilocks zone. It can't be too hot, and it definitely can't be too cold. It has to be just right to give you the best performance, the best fuel economy, and to make sure it lasts for a long, long time. And believe me, the stakes are incredibly high. If your engine runs too cold, you're not burning fuel properly, which tanks your efficiency and causes a ton of extra wear and tear. But if it runs too hot, whoa, now you're talking about serious thermal stress, engine knock, and maybe even a catastrophic failure. It's a really delicate balancing act. All right, so that brings us to the fundamental problem that engineers had to solve. How do you manage these wild temperature swings all the way from a freezing cold start to running under a heavy load? Let's dig into what actually happens when that temperature isn't right. It's really a domino effect. See, bad combustion doesn't just waste your gas money. It also cranks up your emissions. And when your oil isn't at the right temperature, it can't lubricate properly, which leads to all sorts of premature wear. You can see why getting this right is just absolutely crucial. So, what's the solution to this huge engineering puzzle? It's actually a pretty simple but totally brilliant little device. The thermostat. Let's get into how this thing actually works. Okay, so at its core, a thermostat is basically just a smart valve that can sense temperature. Its entire job, its whole purpose in life, is to be the gatekeeper for your engine's coolant, deciding when to let it flow to the radiator and when to keep it in the engine. Now, you might be thinking, why is it located right there? Well, its position is everything. By sitting right where the hot coolant leaves the engine, it's like it has its finger directly on the pulse. This lets it get the most accurate temperature reading so it can react instantly to any changes. Pretty smart, right? And here's the really cool part. This thing works its magic without any wires, any sensors, any electronics at all. It's a purely mechanical device that's so clever, it's basically a valve with its own tiny brain. Let's pop the hood and look inside. It's actually pretty simple. You've got the frame, a valve plate that acts like a door, and a spring that holds it shut. But the real genius is this little cylinder right here. It's filled with a special kind of wax, and that wax pellet is the secret to the whole operation. Okay, so here's how it all comes together. When you first start your car, the engine's cold, so the thermostat is completely closed. The coolant just circulates inside the engine block. We call this the short circuit, so it can warm up as quickly as possible. As the coolant gets hotter, that special wax inside the pellet starts to expand. This pushes a little piston out, which slowly opens the valve. Once you're at the perfect operating temp, the valve is all the way open, letting coolant flow to the radiator to get cooled down. That's the long circuit. Simple, but so effective. And these thermostats are designed for very specific temperatures. A really common one is rated for 88 degrees Celsius or about 190 Fahrenheit. Now, that doesn't mean it just snaps open at 88 degrees. It starts to open then, and it's usually fully open about 10 or 15 degrees higher. This gradual opening is what keeps the engine temperature super stable right in that sweet spot. Of course, like any part, they don't last forever. So what happens when this critical little valve decides to fail? Well, that's when you can run into some real trouble. A thermostat can fail in one of two ways. It can get stuck closed, which is bad news. That means coolant can never get to the radiator to cool off, and your engine will overheat really, really fast. Or it can fail in the open position. Now coolant is always flowing to the radiator, and your engine struggles to ever get warm enough to run efficiently. So how would you even know if your thermostat is failing? Let's go over some of the real-world symptoms you can actually see and feel from the driver's seat. This little chart here is super helpful. If you're noticing any of these issues, you can start to figure out what's going on. For example, is your temperature gauge shooting up into the red? That's a classic sign of a thermostat that's stuck closed. On the other hand, if your car takes forever to warm up, your heater is blowing cool air, and your gas mileage stinks, it's a good bet your thermostat is stuck open. Keeping an eye out for these things can seriously save you from much bigger repair bills down the road. Now, that simple mechanical thermostat has been a reliable workhorse for decades. But you know, technology never stands still. A lot of modern cars have electronically controlled thermostats now. They're wired into the car's main computer, the ECU, which gives the car way more precise control. For example, the computer can decide to open the thermostat a bit earlier if you're towing a trailer, or maybe keep it closed a little longer for better fuel economy on your commute. It's all about fine-tuning. So let's wrap this up with the most important thing to remember. A bad thermostat isn't just about your car overheating on the highway. That's the dramatic failure. More often, it's a silent problem, slowly wrecking your fuel economy, increasing your emissions, and reducing the life of your engine, all without you even knowing it. It really is your engine's unseen and absolutely essential guardian.